Shalom, call Limelight Howell Bahashim, Yahushua Bahashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach world, the Hopeful Lake, sincere Shalom, the Hopeful Lake, the House of David, the 144,001 third that's tuning in, pushing the truth with all truth and sincerity. Now I'm just hit you with two precepts and play this full video. This is 2nd Ezra 6 and 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. This is Revelation 6 and 6, and it reads, And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Because what's about to happen is hyperinflation. This economy is about to go under. There's no stopping it. Alright, time for this video to play.
Monday, January 2nd, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So happy New Year to all of you. I wish I had better news, but I think it's good to be prepared for the coming reality than not being prepared. So we're going to look at why, in my opinion, it's almost set in stone now that our currencies are going to be destroyed, that we're going to have a hyperinflationary collapse. And I'm going to show you why, especially in the UK, the signs are really pronounced. But there are signs also in other countries, and I'll touch upon that as well. Before I start, I'd like to thank all of you again for your interest in the channel. All the new subscribers we've had in the last 6 weeks or so. So for all those of you who enjoy my videos and watch me regularly, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet, and also hit that little notification bell to be notified of all my new videos. As a lot of you know, or most of you know, I make a video every day except for Sunday where I do my live stream. I did a live stream last night. So we're going to focus a little bit on the UK, mostly on the UK today, but I will give you some examples of what of the same thing happening in other countries, especially in the West. I've spoken about the UK debt bomb. I even have a playlist for that. It started many decades ago, and it's accentuating, or it has really picked up since the 08 crisis, where we've had to bail out the banks, we've had to bail out homeowners, and it's getting worse and worse. In 2020, we had to bail out the economy and the banks again, I would say, even though we are told it was because of what happened health-wise in 2020, 21. And yes, a lot of people will just associate what's happening with the last few months in the UK, the Kwarteng budget. A lot of people say that's why we're in trouble, but I think it's been brewing, as I've just said, for many decades. I have hyperinflation files as well if you want to watch. It's not just the economics that leads to hyperinflation. And hyperinflation, yes, it starts with cost push inflation, but eventually it becomes psychological. It's to do with the loss of confidence in the currency. As Mises said, the only way to stop the inflation is to stop inflating. And I think the Jeremy Hunt budget and the new government, they've tried to kind of backtrack a little bit, or give the impression that they've backtracked, that they're competent. And the markets have recovered a little bit. Yields have come off, but they're starting to go back up. What else? The British pound did rebound, but it probably would have rebounded no matter what. And it's going back down. I would say it's not out of the woods yet. So in the last few days, I've seen things and stories that make me almost convinced that they will never stop inflating the government. And by inflating, I mean the deficit spending, the money printing by the central bank. And the central bank is still doing money printing, even though they're raising rates. They're nowhere close to where they need to be to stop the inflation. And yes, they are taxing us more, and they are going to increase taxes de facto by allowing inflation to chip away at your earnings, because they're not going to increase the thresholds for taxation. But they did the same thing in Weimar, Germany, and I'm going to put a video up in the cards for you to watch where they talk about that. It's a really good channel. And Germany, like the UK and other countries for the last 14, 15 years since the '08 crisis, we haven't been using taxation to pay for the bailouts of '08 and other things. We've been using deficit spending. We've been printing money and allowing government debt to go through the roof. And that's what the Germans did from 1914 or 1913 even to 1918 to finance the war. They used very little taxation, and inflation started to pick up in the post-war era. But even during the war, it started picking up. And then in 1921, the German government, they decided to increase taxation to try to solve the inflation problem. But all that did was put a dampener on the economy. It made people pay more taxes, and it just, it was the wrong policy, and it was too late. And I feel that Jeremy Hunt's tough on tax policy is a bit too late, just like the Germans were. And the other thing as well, with inflation, the tax receipts for the government always lose value, so you have to keep borrowing, and that's what happened in Germany. And eventually, in 1922, towards the end of 22, we started actually seeing the beginning of the hyperinflation. And I'm going to quote a German professor from Harvard who grew up during that time. And this is from Fiat Paper Money, The History and Evolution of Our Currency by Ralph T. Foster. So in the introduction here, this is what it says. There had been more to the story. I decided to do some research on paper money and how it changes. In 1993, I interviewed Friedrich Kessler, an eminent law professor who taught at Harvard and the University of California at Berkeley. Kessler had personally experienced the German monetary crisis of the 1920s. His opening words were profound. So this is what I've been telling people. A lot of people, some of you keep saying, oh, you're saying we're going to get hyperinflation. Where is it? But listen to what this professor said, and I quote him. It was horrible, horrible. Like lightning, it struck. No one was prepared. You cannot imagine the rapidity with which the whole thing happened. The shelves in the grocery stores were empty. You could buy nothing with your paper money. So that's how quickly it comes. So I'm afraid it's a bit too late to get the taxes going. They should have used taxes way before, after the '08 crisis, but it's never politically palatable to increase taxes. And that's the other reason that I think things are going to get worse, is because they're going to lose the next general election, and Labor is not going to do anything to take the inflation away. So these are the things here, for example, that I've seen in the last few days, and I've put them aside to show you today. So this is from yesterday. Jeremy Hunt, our Chancellor of the Exchequer or Finance Minister, considers taxpayer rescue of British Steel blast furnaces. Cabinet members lobby Chancellor to offer $300 million to save group's Scunthorpe site. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I've read this article, and suffice it to say, if they help out British Steel, which is actually owned by a Chinese company, they're going to help the other companies like Tata Steel, and this bill could go into the billions. So I'm going to put a link to this article in the description under archive.ph. So it says here, under the picture, Brits and steelmakers have faced soaring energy prices and rising inflation, as well as softening demand because of the economic downturn. So there's softening demand and inflation's continue to go up. But the other thing that's costing them a lot is actually government policy. They're making these companies buy carbon credits. And as you will read in here, British Steel is having to pay $100 million in carbon credits. It's all about the green agenda, the zero net zero, right? So that doesn't help either. So another one here, and this is from December 17th, and I've probably spoken about this before, but combined with everything I'm seeing, it's not good. Ministers to offer business energy support package until early 2024. So Jeremy Hunt wants to keep the cost of the assistance down, given the tight squeeze on public finances, but they're going to do it. And you might think, why are you so heartless? Why don't you want people to be helped? Why don't you want businesses to be helped? Well, because government doesn't have any wealth or money. It has to take it away from the people that it's supposed to be helping. It makes no sense whatsoever. And the reason they do it, of course, is because they want to win the next election. They want to keep the electorate happy. But in the meantime, they destroy our currency. And they'll blame it, of course, on many other things that we don't really need to cover here. But you probably know what I mean. The war, the pandemic, everything else but themselves. And I saw this as well yesterday. From today, traveling by bus just got cheaper. We're backing 130 operators to cap single fares at £2. So this is from the conservatives, the people who are running the country. They're supposed to be conservatives, and they look more like socialists or communists. So who's going to finance this? Well, you are, the taxpayer. So it's just another gimmick. I replied to that tweet. I said, by we're backing, the fake conservatives mean they're taxing, borrowing, inflating you, and then pretending they're helping you. It is nothing more than a gimmick. So this is another thing. What else? How else are they going to help people? I'm sure they're going to find many things to do in the next year or two, and that's going to cost more and more money. And then you have also all these energy companies energy providers that went bust in 2021. It wasn't even after what happened in the Ukraine in the beginning of 2022. But we're left holding the bag. We're going to pay for the bailout of Bulb, and it's going to cost about $6.5 billion, maybe a little less, but who else are they going to bail out, right? And then I told you I would give you some examples of what's happening in other countries as well. Well, recently we had the Spanish government announce measures to help the cost of living crisis with more money. It's crazy. When we read about the Germans, they did the same thing. They announced cost of living packages by printing more money. We're doing the same thing. Spain announced a 10 billion euro worth of measures to ease the pain of inflation. It's so crazy and upside down. And why is this happening? Well, because we're being run, and our country's been run by people who are illiterate in economics. They have no idea of what economics is all about. They've been, of course, trained in the Keynesian paradigm, where when things get bad, the government is supposed to step in, and that's the whole problem. The other one is in the U.S., the 1.7 trillion omnibus that just passed, over 4,000 pages of pork that they brought out just before Christmas and New Year, and you couldn't read, and it just went through. A little bit like the Federal Reserve Act on December 23rd, 1913. With that, I wish you all a great rest of the day and the great first week for 2023. Take care. Bye.